Welcome to Date Like a French Woman, the podcast where we approach dating as a sacred healing journey rather than a quest. Welcome to a new episode of Date Like a French Woman. I am your host, Michelle Wolff, and today we have a guest that will introduce something that is very intriguing. At least it was very intriguing to me, and will help you deal with your energy and any feeling of loneliness or depression that may occur throughout your dating adventure or even in your relationship. Her name is Michelle Wolff, and she's an intuitive energy coach and the founder or the creator of Forest Reiki. That's why I told you it would be intriguing. So, welcome, Michelle. How are you today?
I'm good, Miriam. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm very excited because you're going to introduce something that is different. Some people have heard about Reiki, others
Yeah.
not even, but Forest Reiki, I'm sure very few have heard about it.
Yes.
Before we dive into that, I would love if you could tell us your story, your journey from what you were doing and how you ended up helping people the way you help them today.
Okay. Um, I my background is in social work and mental health and addictions therapy. And what happened was two events many years apart. So in 2004, I was working as a social worker and absolutely miserable. And I used to go walking in the woods a lot to try to stay sane. And I was getting more in touch with my spirituality, and I had been trained in traditional Reiki in 1996 and meditating and all that stuff. But things were deepening, like several things had happened, and I was just upset a lot. And so in the woods, I had a experience that I have just recently started talking about publicly because it sounds so weird. um, I was just compelled. It was raining. I was walking through the woods, and I just felt like I should stop. And I stopped, and it felt like there were elemental beings there. I didn't see much visually at that time. I was more hearing things and not so much visual and feeling them, kinesthetic. So it felt like a rainbow wrap or cloak was put around me, and my hands got hot like they did when I was practicing Reiki, but it felt like there was a color. It was white, like a white opal, fiery but milky white, not clear. And my hands got really, really hot. And at that time, my hands weren't really getting hot when I was doing energy work. Um, so that was profound, and it was just so much love, and it knocked me down. It was so much love. I don't remember ever feeling that much love before, and I cried, and it was just, I'd like to say it was life changing, but it wasn't, because I went back to my office and talked to myself out of it. So
Oh, of course, as we
yeah,
do.
yeah, yes, just rationalized it away and thought it was super cool, and but didn't. I never told anybody about it. I probably told my mom several years later. And then when I moved out here in 2015, we're out in the middle of the forest, and again, kind of struggling. Like I left a job as a sexual assault response team coordinator, and came out here to be closer to my daughter and twin granddaughters who were little at the time, and well, they're still little but babies, and in the forest all the time, because it was another point of like, I don't know what to do. I can't really take a full-time job. I don't want to go back to social worker or work, because I was watching the babies, so I couldn't like get a real job. So I was doing coaching, and getting sick, like the trees, ironically enough, the tree pollen and things like that were making me really sick. I'd come from 25 years in Colorado, and I didn't have allergies there, and came here, got sick. Um,
Where are you located right now for our audience?
right now, I'm north of Atlanta, about 90 minutes north
Okay.
in east. So we're about an hour and a half south of Chattanooga, Tennessee, and about an
Okay.
hour and a half north of Atlanta. So East Coast. Southeast. And, and so I started on Periscope doing live streams
Oh,
and sharpening my intuition and learning more about energy work and chakra clearing and going instead of as a therapist. I was doing trauma therapy. I was doing EMDR, which is physical, but I was learning to go straight to the energetic of the problem and work it that way with clients. And so anyway, all of that, and then our current state of our country and also our world. I mean, I feel like the whole world is going through a lot of crisis. I
transition.
started, oh, it's you can't even keep up. And so my clients were drowning. I was having a hard time. Just everyone who crosses my path is some sort of empath or sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
So I kept remembering that time in 2004, and then just getting images from the trees here, like of their community. And then I ran across a couple of articles on forest bathing, which I'd never heard of before, and all the research that's been done in Japan
Wow.
since the early 80s. So
Like
the
babies that were born in the forest or raised in the forest?
bathing, like
Oh,
taking a
bathing.
bath.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
not
yeah.
babies, I
There
was.
are feral babies, but
Something else.
yes, different topic, different day. Anyway, they've done a lot of research and stuff. So about the effects of being in the trees on our bodies, our blood pressure, and things like that. So, and then I was dreaming about being, in the Pacific Northwest forest and this forest, and it was like just getting this message that it was time to bring this stuff out.
Mm.
Then a celebrity that I've followed for years, several killed themselves, like suicided, all right in a row over this last year. And the last one was Anthony Bourdain, and it
Yes.
just devastated me. Devastated
So
me.
sad.
I love him. I followed him. It just really shook me to the core. And I had had a deep depression in May, probably one of the worst I'd ever had. And then coming out of that, then all this stuff and seeking for ways. I was in Paris. I had an incident of hearing the voice in my head like so clearly, like all these things started coming together. And then the people around me really suffering. And so I finally just asked, what do I do? Like our suicide rates are going up, 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 and I don't know what to do. I don't know what to offer. And these images from the trees. So it was like the trees are calling us. It still sounds strange to say it out loud, but it's like they're saying to remember to root into the ground, to be a single entity
Yes.
within a larger community, maintaining your own space and not reaching out for anything, like being self sustaining right here, not comparing yourself to the tree next door, not thinking like, oh, that pine tree is so pretty and here I'm just an oak, and just dropping all of that and really just it the message was like shelter in the roots
Yeah.
and in the community, and to remember that we are all one, and what we're seeing is just a little piece of everything that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last push was because my mind was like, no, people are going to think you're crazy. Like, people already think you're crazy. What are you doing? You can't, like, that's the last step. That's like crossing the Rubicon. Everyone's going to know you're nuts. I just didn't
Yes.
want to. There's a big part of me that just didn't want to. But then he died, and I was like, you know what, Michelle, get over yourself. You have a tool that might help. I don't know if it's the answer to suicide or depression, but I know that it makes people feel better.
Yeah.
And for me to hold that and keep it to myself, in those few days in June, it felt horribly irresponsible. Like it was almost like a feeling of how dare I have a thing that might help someone feel better and not put it out there because my ego might get its feelings hurt. No, we can't
And
do
that's,
that.
I remember hearing an interview, you were interviewed, and that
Yeah,
sentence stayed in my head. You said it's irresponsible
responsible. Yeah,
to keep a tool that works for yourself only. And
yeah.
that was brilliant.
So selfish, right? But we do that, right? Because we're scared. We don't want to be kicked out of the tribe, or,
Yes.
we think we're going to get kicked out of the tribe and die if we're not
Yeah.
if we're not accepted.
The fear of rejection, it's very strong in
Hmm.
us. It's a survival instinct.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
me too, as a coach,
Mm.
I work with energy as well, and it took me a long time to come out of the woo-woo closet,
Yeah. Yes, I
because
totally
you're
know.
afraid of what people are going
Yes.
to think. But then
Hmm.
when you do and you connect with your real tribe, then you can be
Yeah.
successful in helping. So
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yes.
And the people that come to you now, do they come to you online or do they come to you in person? How does Forest Reiki work exactly?
So if anyone's been trained in traditional Reiki, the difference in the feeling is, and I only have 19 people who've gone through it so far, so my database is small. But the common comparisons I'm hearing is that, and this was true for me too, that traditional Reiki feels like it's up here,
Yeah,
like it's
maybe we should
cosmic.
explain what Reiki
Yeah.
is. Just
Oh
yeah,
yes, okay, just basics.
yeah,
Um, so Reiki is a Japanese word for universal life force energy. It's the energy that's available to all things that animates all living things. You can think of it in terms of quantum physics, the quantum level. It's everything that makes up everything.
yes,
And all Reiki is using yourself as a like a tuning fork
yeah,
or focusing tool. Like the way I describe it to people is, if I'm looking at you, I'm seeing Miriam. If I'm looking over there, I'm seeing a kitchen. If I'm looking over there, I'm seeing a guitar. And where we look, we is what we have access to. So if we look inside and we set an intention to feel and open to the energy that is all that is, we can become a focusing tool for that and not direct it, but we can radiate it.
yeah. The way I explain it is like we're a conduit. We're
Yeah, conduit.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. We're just a funnel, a water hose.
yes. And you know that's
Yeah.
funny because when I do Reiki, I have this image in my head. I need to remove my own ego out of the way, my own
Yes.
persona. And you know, in the Bible or in the Torah, because I'm Jewish, they
Mm.
talk about Moses parting the sea.
Oh, yeah.
And for me, I imagine myself parting myself and not being
Oh.
there anymore. So that's the image that comes to me. I don't know what comes to you, but that's
I picture setting myself to the side.
yeah,
So I say a little prayer every time I just call on
yes,
any energies that support the person in the session. And I just imagine that I just set this part of me over here.
yes,
And I've done that even as a therapist. I did that just because I didn't want to
yeah,
influence. And I don't even actually want to know a whole lot about the person before a session. I just want it to be pure.
yes.
Yeah.
And so that's the traditional Reiki. And where
Yeah.
does Reiki, a forest Reiki, come in the picture differently?
So when we're drawing on that energy, so it's adding a layer of connecting to the woods. And you don't have to be in the woods. And you don't have to ever have been in the woods.
Okay.
But to make the conscious connection to include living, the elemental energies, the
Hmm.
trees, the living things, growing things, plants. Even if a person is in a city and has no access to the woods, at a bare minimum, you can have a plant, in your home and that can be your way to. So you're activating this energy and centering yourself and really grounding. There's a big emphasis on grounding,
Hmm.
which takes that upper body experience and drops it into the lower body and has the two come together
Yes.
so that we're whole. We're not drifting out into the cosmic realm, which we love to play in because
Hmm.
we don't have to deal with our bodies that way.
Yes.
But
The challenges of Earth and all that.
yeah, yeah, and it's not healing at the deepest level, especially for women, because women's power centers are below the waist in our root and our sacral and our solar plexus. And if we're always up here, analytical, or we've learned to meditate and check out of the body, we're
Yes.
missing out on this comfort and this grounding and this self sustainability that comes when you're fully seated in your own pelvic girdle, when you're
Uh,
just down here.
yes, I so
Does that make
agree.
sense?
And
Yeah,
it's so healing too because you connect to the earth and the
yeah,
earth energies can come up and heal you too.
exactly. So
Powerful.
it's doing both, and the people who know both are feeling it the same way I'm feeling it. Like it's bringing the feminine back to the masculine.
Yes.
Now having known both Usui, Reiki, nothing wrong with it. I never want to criticize it. It's a
Yeah.
great tool, but it's masculine. It feels that to me, and this is bringing back that feminine energy, which is missing from our entire planet. So it feels like restoring community within yourself and outside, restoring um, the balance of both. We need both feminine and masculine
Balance. Yeah.
in the heart, meeting in the
Absolutely.
heart.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
But I think that's how, when they talk about chakras, the energy
yeah,
centers in the body, I've
yeah,
always heard that the heart is the balancing one, which
yeah,
guides the energies from below to the energies from above. And that's where
yep,
we ultimately are
yeah,
supposed to live our life from.
yes, yes. Yeah, and when we're bouncing all over the place, or we've been wounded or traumatized, and our body does not feel like home
Yes.
anymore, this is sort of feels like giving you back the keys to your own house
Mm-hmm.
and saying, I know this was a hard place to live before, but try this. Like, come in here and recognize that you're not a victim to what happened to you. You you are the sovereign authority of your own kingdom, which includes your body.
Yeah.
You get to go in and remodel.
Yes.
You can change it. You can do it different.
Remodel. That's such a great metaphor.
Yeah,
And
at the
do you
ground
get
floor.
the question that came to my mind is, oh, it's a balance of feminine and masculine in
Yeah,
all,
yeah.
but it's not only women, right? Because do you
No,
men too? Because we need both.
we need
Men,
both
men.
desperately, right? The problem is
Yes.
we have so much toxic masculinity and not enough femininity, hardly at all. And a lot of our feminine time as women has been spent modeling ourselves after the masculine model in order to succeed, especially out in agencies. And I always worked in with law enforcement and
Oh yeah.
attorneys. There's such a strict, like, militaristic hierarchy there that's not working anymore.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's all falling apart. So our men need to go through their anger and their trauma,
Yeah.
and we need to go own our anger and access their softness in the heart, and then we need to go find our anger and go through it, own it, and then make our peace with our own masculinity, because it's so easy if we've been hurt by men to then blanket, just generalize our anger to all men and all things masculine. But then that's cutting off half of ourselves, so we're still living in a divided house.
Yeah.
And so the biggest word that encompasses all of this is union, and
Hmm.
moving through the emotional pieces with some support for your physical body, to create that union, to restore that union that's been fragmented.
I don't know if you find that too, but with my work, when I work with women, I find that very few actually connect to their feminine energy because we're
No,
so used to
yeah,
using the masculine one.
yeah,
And the power is there.
yes,
Of course,
yeah,
acknowledging that we have masculine in us, but also connecting to the feminine that we don't even know where to start. We've never
no,
even been
we
taught.
don't.
You
There's
find,
shame
yes,
attached. Oh, if you're, run like a girl, or don't be a girl, or don't be a pussy, or don't be, like, ooh, that's the worst thing you could be, is a girl. And
yes,
we all grow up with that. And we don't
there
want
is,
to be weak.
yeah, there is a fear to be associated with that and even to connect, even
Mm,
identify ourselves with that.
yeah.
So shown like pointed, the finger is pointed to that in society.
Yes, absolutely. The only image we're presented with is sexual,
Yes,
uh, being in service to men as sexual objects or as house cleaners and baby makers.
Yeah.
It's pretty limited. And if we want to succeed out there in some masculine cultures, then we take that on, and it can be really hard to come back from that. And
Yeah.
it exits us out of the body too. We become very disconnected from
Completely.
our body because you can't feel. If you're feminine, you're going to have feelings that, it's part of it. So to keep it all at bay, and then people start, who wouldn't be depressed?
Yeah.
Uh,
And I
or
even find that I've talked with some men and they were expressing the fact that they were not allowed to express their feminine side when they were young too.
no, yeah,
And that
never.
is changing too because there are books now
Mm,
that are coming out about that. Uh, the stigma was to be masculine and not feel and not express, and
mhm.
that's a, a big problem. That's a hurting factor too
Yeah,
for us and for them.
yes. We're emotional beings. We're sensitive. We're intuitive. Intuitive skills are not. Um, they're not allotted to just a certain few people. We all have that,
Yes.
but you have to be experiencing emotions in your body to have it work well, to be have access to these intuitive abilities to sense other people even at a distance. And those things are not unusual. We've just forgotten, and we've smushed them down.
Yeah.
We've boxed ourselves in so that it's really difficult to get out. And men die faster than women in part because of that. You can't just chop off a whole side of your
Hmm.
makeup and not suffer from that. The
Yes.
body takes the brunt of that. It suffers.
Yes. So how does the forest Reiki helps with reconnecting to your feminine and grounding? How does it work?
What's happening is similar to working with energies at all. It starts to bring in any grounding practice, it starts to bring you back into the body. When you come back into the body, there's a backlog of emotions that have been waiting for you. They don't go anywhere, they're still there. So the biggest thing I'm seeing happen is a little like a jammed up river. This forest reiki starts to filter through, and those log jams and emotions start to flow.
Okay.
That can be pretty uncomfortable if you're not used to it. So we know that reiki really supports the body, and this supports the emotions and the physical body and the spiritual body. So as these things start to break loose, there's outbursts of crying, there might be outbursts of anger. And so the coaching part is just stay steady, just stay rooted and breathe. And
Yeah.
I promise it will rise and fall like a wave. It will get smoother and smoother and easier and easier. And then I've had some people over the years in coaching think that the end zone is peace 100% all the
Yeah.
time. It's
Uh,
not.
no, that's such a misconception.
Yes, it's like you still have feelings, but you don't label them as good or bad
Yeah.
anymore. You just be with them like little kids. You're just there
And
with
you
them.
bounce back so much faster once you let your feelings
Yes.
flow. You can
Yeah.
let them out and then you bounce back.
Yeah.
But when it's a great thing that we're bringing that this awareness to the audience right now because
Hmm.
most people think that when they're going to start working with energy and on themselves everything will be smooth and
Yes. Puppies and
it's like going
kittens
through
and
fire before.
unicorns and
Yeah, you go through I, difficult emotions, through a
yes.
tunnel that you need to go through in order to come out from the other side and
Yes.
somehow purified.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's maybe something that people need to know.
Well, I'm super honest with people, and I always joke because I have a no refund policy.
Okay.
And for that reason, because we'll get scared and our ego will take us out.
Right back. Yeah.
We want to stay safe. And so I try to explain that to people like, you're going to fight this. You're going to think, oh, it's wonderful. It's so cool. And you're going to do it for a week and then you're going to drop it because it's going to shift and move and you're going to want to stop. It's really important not to stop. Um, it gets ugly. It gets worse before it gets better, but
Yeah.
it does eventually get better
But it's
pretty
important
fast.
because all that, whether we're talking about anger or sadness,
Mm,
it's stuck in our body and it's going to make us either self sabotage in our
it's
worst
killing us.
moment or
Yeah.
get sick, physically sick.
Hmm.
I've seen that too in people.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so, therefore, it's a must. Just,
Well, our systems are turning on themselves. We're attacking our own bodies with,
yes,
and part of that's environmental, but I really believe a lot of it is we are at war within ourselves, and the symptoms of that look like inflammation and chronic fatigue. And I'm not a doctor; I always have to say that. But this rise of autoimmune disease and suicide, where that energy is going to go somewhere,
yes,
and if it doesn't go out, it turns and destroys us from the inside out. And that's where I can get kind of well, not kind of, but super passionate. Like we weren't born to die like this.
yes.
We weren't. This is not how it's supposed to be.
And do you find, because I see very often that before the crisis really happens, there were whispers at the beginning and then it becomes
Yeah,
louder and another
yeah,
symptom or another thought or another mini depression. Do you find that too, that the body will talk to us and it will intensify
yes,
the symptoms if you don't listen?
yes, yes. I call that getting. Do you know what a 2x4 is? Like a big stick of wood.
Yes.
I call that if you don't listen early on, you get the 2x4, the cosmic 2x4 across the head.
Yes.
Because yes, and I always saw that in the agencies I worked in, as people would start to decompensate and start to fall apart, there would be little glimmers and little clues like, hey, you need to go find another job, like
Yeah.
you need to get out of here. And they wouldn't listen. It would get worse, 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 and they would end up fired after a lot of wreckage behind them. And yes, your body like starts out, it suddenly can't digest
Yes.
gluten, or you start getting allergies out of nowhere. It's like these little things. And this brings you so much into the body, and you start to form a baseline of what does my body need? What do I really want to eat? Like, what sounds really good to me? Maybe some days it is a cheeseburger, but maybe other days it's just fruit all day. I mean, it might not make sense. You have to eat like a toddler. They eat peanut butter for 3 weeks and they're fine, but
But the
they
body
they
will tell you.
listen. Yeah.
I know I have a condition with my liver and I was craving artichokes for a while.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then I realized reading that artichoke is helping the body, the
Oh,
liver. So my body was just telling me, okay, go eat that, that's healing. And
yes.
we're not taught to do that in our society. It's
No.
so, all the diets and the new fades of how to eat, they give
Hmm.
fancy names and it's so rigid and
Yes.
disconnected from who we really are because
It makes us crazy.
yes.
Hmm.
What are, so you mentioned a few warnings that you see, like the allergies or the message to change and quit your job or
Hmm.
find another job.
Hmm.
What are the most common symptoms that you see in people if there are a few?
I think sleep disturbances
Ah,
probably come first.
yeah,
Your ability to tolerate the normal stresses of everyday life starts to tank. Um, Things begin to irritate you. Uh, People start to just feel restless, and for women especially, seem to start crying a lot for no reason. And there's huge reasons that they're crying, but they don't see it.
yeah,
But I'll see a lot of people crushing this inner restlessness, this feeling that something's wrong and they're dissatisfied. And so what we do instead is we pick at our partners, or we criticize our children, or
or we go shopping.
or we go shopping, or we eat too much. That's my favorite one.
Yeah, me
Uh,
too.
yeah, we spend too much, eat too much, Netflix, everything too much. We
Yes,
get Facebook entranced. We're doing anything we can to maintain what we think is safety.
yeah,
We have to redefine that safety sometimes means tearing everything apart and starting over.
but that's scary. That's the
So scary.
uh,
Only brave
unknown.
people,
Yeah,
only brave people come to this kind of work and stay in this kind of work because it is hard.
And before people, let's say, before they decide to go see you, is there one practice or one exercise that you could share with them today that they can
Yes.
start working on themselves, and if they feel that they need more, they can reach out to people like you?
Yes. Yes. The simplest thing is what you have with you every minute of every day, and that's your breath. If you can't breathe, then we're done. But
Yes, literally.
yeah, we don't need to talk to you if you're not breathing. But if you have breath in your lungs, then you can spend 3 minutes, 5 minutes. I tell people to start small because a lot of us like to say, I'm going to start meditating. I'm going to meditate
Yeah,
for 30 minutes a day. Nobody can maintain that.
no,
So 3 minutes, 5 minutes, sit in silence and just breathe. Put a hand on your stomach. I like to put a hand on my stomach and a hand on my heart
on your
with
heart.
the
Yeah,
intention of
reconnect.
melding the two. And then when you do that, you'll be bored and you won't want to do it. But if you stick with it, set a timer, but don't look at the timer. So this is tricky too, right? People
Yes,
set a timer on their phone and then they want to check it every 30 seconds. So set the timer, put the timer across the room, and then just make yourself sit and breathe. And then what you are avoiding will start to rise up to consciousness.
yeah,
And then you can breathe through it, feel the feelings. And it's at that point people sometimes will then need to go get a
yes,
coach or therapy, depending on what kind of stuff is coming up.
the gravity of the situation. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can do that all day long. Anytime you feel like you're about to freak out, you can stop and breathe. I used to run to the bathroom and just sit in the bathroom at work and breathe because we didn't have any privacy. It was like a bullpen,
Yes.
all the, oh. And
Yeah.
so I would just go hide,
Yeah.
go take a walk, do something to remind yourself you're not a victim to your circumstances. You're not.
And I do that too. I go in the bathroom when I can't do it wherever I am, and sometimes I tap because I do tapping too.
Yes, tapping. Yeah.
And but what you said is that you are going to be bored a little bit, and that's good to know because you're one, but you know that you have to stick with it. It doesn't mean,
Yeah.
because people tell me, oh my God, I don't know how to meditate. I'm not good at it, because they are bored and they expect to be
Yeah.
enlightened.
Dazzled.
Like,
Where's the angels? Yeah.
yes, I'm gonna hear it and it's gonna come on me. And no, nothing like that. At least not at the beginning. You may experience
No, it's
it
so
later.
boring in the
Yes,
beginning. Yes. It's
especially
tedious.
in our society, we're used to be like,
Yes.
we have everything
Dazzle
at
me.
our
Yes.
fingertip.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
wow, that's a great point to mention.
Yeah.
Where can people find some information about you? And I'll put it in the description as well.
My website is thatmichellewolff.com, and Michelle has two L's and Wolf has two F's, no E. Some people want to put an E on the end, and
Oh,
that'll
okay.
mess them up. So thatmichellewolff.com, and it has everything right across the top. Facebook is facebook.com/Michelle Wolff11, and
Excellent.
Instagram's Michelle Wolff11, Periscope Michelle Wolff11. It's all the same.
And so people can actually go check you out on Facebook
Yeah.
as well. I'm sure you do like
Yep.
interactive
Yeah.
stuff so they can experience your energy.
Yes. Yeah.
And if you're listening and you see that you already have some of those symptoms and you don't know how to cope with it, if you feel that you're going, because the trick with depression, and I've experienced it too, is that you don't see it coming. It
No, you
goes in
don't.
stages,
Yes.
and you get to a point where you don't feel really yourself, and
Right.
you're off, and then it goes deeper and deeper, and
Yes.
and then one day you're deep in it and it's so hard to get out.
Yes.
When you first experience those weird feelings that
Yeah.
you're off, that's the time to come see you
Yeah.
and see what's going on, and maybe redirect when the it's just going to be a few degrees compared to if you come later it's going to be huge.
Right. 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 Catch it in the early stages. And the
Yes,
nice thing about Forest Reiki is in level one, you can treat yourself starting that day. You can start working with yourself. And then level two, you can work with others. There's some work to do for certification, but
Okay. Also,
and then you're on your own.
you can get
You can,
certified.
yeah, I'm doing a certification process,
That's
yeah,
very
so
cool.
that people can go out and one, make their money back,
Yeah.
and two, every time you do a session, like in coaching it, you do a session for someone, you're working on yourself
Of
too. So
course.
there's mutual exchange, and
Of
it's
course.
just cumulative, gets better and better and better.
Yes. So when they go on your website, they can see both levels. And if
Yes,
someone is already, let's say, certified in Reiki like I am, and they want to take
yeah,
Forest Reiki, do they have to
yeah,
take the level one, or how
yeah,
does it work?
yeah. Because since I'm doing a certification process, I feel an extra layer of responsibility.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit different. It's not hugely different.
Okay.
It feels hugely different. But the process of meditating and getting the attunements is pretty much the same.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
but
it's
the
something that
feeling
is
is
in
different.
groups, or is it
It's
something
groups. Yeah,
groups?
it's Zoom groups. Um, but I've had people who couldn't make the live one, and they did the recording, and they're okay. Like, it's
'Cause-
working anyway. It's all energy, right? So
yeah, there is no
yeah,
time, there is no, yeah.
no,
So that's great.
yeah,
I There is a question I ask everyone because
sure,
I I'm big on self-love in
yeah,
my coaching. It's one of my pillars. But people I see with my clients, they don't even know where to start most of the time. So
right,
I always ask my guests for their own definition of self-love because it's so broad and it can be different from one person to another. It can resonate differently.
yes.
What is your own definition of self-love?
I would say, for me, if I am loving myself, I'm being honest.
Okay.
I'm radically honest. If I'm angry, I own it. If I feel ashamed, I'll say it. Not maybe not to someone else,
No.
but I own it with myself.
Yeah.
I feel bitchy and jealous. Okay. I feel loving and I want to save the world, and I have so much love, I want to give it to anyone who crosses my path. That's the truth. If I feel petty, that's the truth. When I tell myself the truth, then I don't create these log jams of energy. I just name it and own it. And if there's shame around it, then that gives me the gift of feeling the shame and working with it.
Yes. Because we originally, even working on ourselves, I know in my own journey at the beginning, just saying I take time for me,
Yeah.
prioritize me, there was some guilt
Oh,
underneath.
yeah.
And
Yes,
I had to deal with
absolutely.
that before I could go to the next level. I had
Yeah.
to become aware of that guilt. And that's the same thing with shame. When
Yeah.
you say, for example, if you have a business and you may come across someone who's very successful and you start envying,
Yes.
because that comes from fear,
Yeah.
acknowledge that and see if
Yeah.
there is some shame about envying someone and
Hmm.
forgive yourself because that's
Yeah.
where you are right now and you just let it go. Otherwise, you won't progress anyway.
No, and with jealousy and stuff, I always tell people, if you've noticed that person's work and it makes you feel jealous, all that means is you can do that too, and you're just not doing it. That's all.
It's,
Otherwise, you wouldn't notice them,
yeah, because
you
we
know?
can't see what we don't have in us.
No, it's a gift.
It's a longing. You know that your soul
Hmm.
is longing to express that. That's all.
Yes,
The message.
yes, yes, exactly.
Great. That's a great definition.
Yeah.
I want
Like,
to thank you very much for being our
thank
guest.
you. It's so nice to talk to you.
It was very nice, and I so resonate with what you're teaching.
Yeah, I think it sounds like we're teaching really similar things, like
Yes,
at the heart of it. It
yeah,
is the heart of it. Yeah,
because you know the truth is the truth, and
it
what out
is.
there, we all have our own way to express it and our own style, and that's a great
Yes.
thing because different people attract different tribes, but
Yeah.
we say the same thing, and they've been
Yes.
saying it for I don't know Socrates and
Thousands and thousands.
yes,
As soon as we could talk.
yes, exactly. So thank you, Michelle, and
Thank you.
for you guys out there, our dear audience, go check Michelle's website at thatmichellewolff.com, and I will put the link in the description. And start developing some awareness around what you feel, no matter what it is. and connect yourself with the ground. Ground yourself on a regular basis because you will become so much more powerful when you do that. You will literally, I don't know, gather the power from the earth, from the ground, and
Yes.
you will have it with you. And
Yeah.
that's amazing, I
Become
think.
magnetic.
Yes, yes.
Magnetic.
I teach self confidence and magnetic presence, and that's one of the things
Exactly.
ground,
Yes.
because then you don't even have to do anything. You're just
No.
ready with that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it.
Well, have a wonderful day, Michelle. Go
Thank you.
radiate your beautiful energy and your work over
Ah,
there,
thank you. Thank you.
everywhere. And for our audience, I'll see you next time with a new episode of Date Like a French Woman. Have a wonderful week. Mwah.
Bye.